Almost once a year for the last 6 years, I've done a drawing of Spider-Bat, a fusion of Spider-Man and Batman. It's been a good way to see how my art style has been improving and changing over the years. I've been doing it since before I ran this channel, but I've also done it as videos on this channel the last couple years. And this year I kinda thought I wasn't gonna do it again. I didn't think my art style had changed enough, so instead I did this past Friday's episode, where I just fused a bunch of Spider-Man and Batman villains together. But after I finished that episode, I was kinda like, I think I still do want to do my Spider-Bat drawing. See how my art has changed in the last year. Plus, I've been teasing a story in a bunch of my weird Marvel DC Fusion episodes, where a whole bunch of Spider-Bat villains come together to team up and try and take him down. So I figured today I could do both of those things. Do my annual Spider-Bat drawing and tell the story of Spider-Bat versus the Six. And then at the end, I'll do a little rundown of how I think my art has changed in the last year. But anyway, slightly different format episode than usual, but I hope you all enjoy it. Let's get into the art and story, shall we? Let's go. Hit like, if you want. Subscribe, if you feel like. But either way, enjoy the show. When the hum of Wayne Parker's spider sense began to rumble in his mind, he already knew it was going to be a long night. But there was no way he could have predicted the full scale of the chaos to come. He was mid-swing, well above the streets of New Gotham, when he whipped his head around to see a massive, tangled claw made of vines zipping towards him. He twirled under it, looking towards the nearest rooftop, where Pamela Octavius stood with her usual cascade of vines shooting up from her back. Another two of them fired towards Wayne as he spun and twirled around them. He webbed the roof and shot towards her, cautiously. "You getting slow in your old age, Doc, or are you just going easy on me?" He got within a foot of her face and got his answer. Neither. She was baiting him. A sparking clay hammer smashed Spider-Bat from the air and slammed him to the edge of the roof. He quickly leapt up to see another of his more powerful foes on the rooftop. "Clayvolt, didn't I just put you away? Days are kinda blurring together lately," Wayne said, his eyes suddenly darting around for other foes. "No prison can keep me from my adoring fans, and neither can you, Bat." The brooding, amorphous thespian fired a cannon of lightning at Wayne. He let it strike him, and the shock just sputtered away off the Spider-Bat suit. "You haven't been an enemy of mine long, Volty, but one thing you'll eventually figure about me, I'm a fast learner." Pamela thrust herself off the ground on her vines. "Luckily, I'm well aware of that, Spider, but I ask you this, are you a good multitasker?" Her vines shot towards his head, but his senses began warning him earlier than they should have. Something else was coming. Instead of ducking, he dove to the side, just as two hulking, scaly arms smashed up from the roof beneath him. Pamela's vines hammered against Killer Rhinoc, almost sending him off the roof.
"Watch where you're swinging those things, Octavius."
Wayne landed gracefully on the roof ledge. "Rhinoc too, huh? You know, when I heard about the breakout at Arkham Croft, I figured this was coming. But knowing you, Doc, I would have thought you'd go for some of the brainier baddies to help you out. You got Vampire Bat or the head of the Jackal hiding somewhere?" She sneered. "There were more from Arkham Croft, but they didn't all make the cut. But luckily you've got no shortage of people who wish you dead." Wayne's senses went again and he instinctively leapt up. He passed right over a cannon of ice. Oh no, not him. Spider-Bat hadn't expected freeze. He was tackled out of the air by the Ice Goblin on his frosty glider.
"The day is here, Spider, where you meet your end and no longer trouble me or my work."
Wayne swung an elbow back, but it was caught. Goblin spun the glider around rapidly in a circle, holding Wayne's arm and flinging his whole body around and around in a cyclone before releasing him and slamming him right into a brick wall. Wayne fell and was about to web himself to safety when an arm thrust out and caught him. Spider-Bat looked up to see an at least sort of friendly face. "Riddlecat, thanks." A woman in a green question mark pattern jumpsuit flung him up onto the building. "It's always hard to tell with you, but I'm guessing this means we're sort of friends today?" he asked. "Tell me, Spider," she said. "What word is spelt wrong in the dictionary?" Oh no. She smashed her question cane against his head, then wrapped it around his leg and swept his feet from under him. He rolled out of the way before she could strike again. "Sorry, sport, but you've gotten in the way of me killing that pig Wilson Dent for the last time. I had to handle you somehow." Wayne flung himself into the middle of the roof and spun around to take in the 5 foes around him. "Well, I'll be honest, Cat and Frosty the Flyboy were a surprise, but is this really the best you could do, Pamela? Surely you could have gotten at least one A-lister." But then, Wayne was smashed from behind by a tendril that didn't set off his senses. He rolled across the ground and sprung to his feet, looking behind him. A chill ran up his spine as an eerie chuckle echoed across the roof. How about me, Batsy? Do I count as an A-lister, or do you have a whole other category for little old me? Sauntering across the roof with goopy vines lashing off him was the worst killer of them all. The sadistic symbiote who laughs, Arthur Cassidy. Parker fired up off the roof to get some distance, but a vine snatched his leg and slammed him back down. He was then smashed from the side by Rhino's horn and sent careening into Clayface. The mucky beast grabbed him by the arm and slammed him to the ground again, shattering part of the roof, before hurling him upwards. A cannon of ice blasted at him. Wayne spun in the air but only partially dodged it, having part of his leg coated over in ice. Riddlecat's cane hurled towards Parker but missed, giving him a chance to recover. But before he could land, Cassidy's tendrils had already latched onto him, pulling him towards the cackling madman. Say, did you ever play that game as a kid, where you catch a spider and one by one pluck all its little limbs off? Wayne swung his head and slammed it right into Cassidy. No, I wasn't a sociopath. Arthur laughed through the pain and slashed a claw through Wayne's shoulder. Oh, come, no witty little quips for me? Or are you still mad about me carving up your little sidekick? The mention of Jason Morales shot a bolt of rage through Parker, even though Jason's fate hadn't been as sealed as Cassidy may have thought. Wayne ripped his arm free and slammed it against his belt, expecting a cannon of sound to bellow out, his deterrent against symbiotes. But nothing happened. He tried again, but still nothing. Oh, don't worry, Batsy, I hear 1 in 5 men have that exact problem. Arthur hurled Wayne into the air, thrusting a tendril up and slashing through his side. Pamela yelled up to him, You're not the only one who plans ahead, Spider, she said, pulling some kind of jamming device from a tangle of vines. She looked back to Cassidy. Finish him already. The longer he has, the more time he has to come up with a plan. Pamela thrashed a vine up and pulled Wayne back down to the roof. You said if I joined your little band, I could have my fun. So let me have it. He whipped his tendrils forth once again, but before they could reach, a barrage of bullets fired down from the sky at Cassidy. He whipped around just in time for a foot to slam against his face.
Payback time, you sadistic freak.
Red Arachnid fired a barrage of bullets straight into Cassidy's face, but only managed to irritate him. Who are you supposed to be, a thrift store knockoff? I'm busy with the real Spider. Scurry off. Arachnid said, Not till you're a pile of purple paste. I'm gonna make sure I was your final victim. Wait, I do know that voice. You're the sidekick. I could have sworn I finished you off. You did. He pulled a flashbang from his belt and hurled it into Cassidy's tangled body. I got better. The light erupted, blinding almost everyone on the roof except for the spiders thanks to their masks, and Clayface, who the light didn't bother. Jason continued firing relentlessly at Cassidy, but couldn't get a fatal shot in. Wayne tried to web the device in Pamela's hands, but her vines thrashed around in front of her, blocking the shots. Clayface charged at him and Wayne leapt around, evading the mucky brute's grasp. Thanks for the help, Red, Wayne yelled over the barrage of bullets to Jason. Gotta admit, I'm surprised to see you. I know you're not my biggest fan nowadays. Jason ducked under a swipe of Cassidy's tendrils. I'm here for him, but also wouldn't be thrilled to see you dead, I guess. That was the nicest thing Jason had said to Spider-Bat since his death. Jason had been resurrected after being killed by Cassidy, and had been enraged to see that Parker had refused to kill Cassidy even after that event, and after so many breakouts from Arkhamcroft. As the eyes of their foes cleared, chaos ensued. Jason was firing at Cassidy and dodging slashing claws from Rhino. Spider-Bat was trying to tear through vines while barely avoiding ice beams from above and Clayface's hammering fists. A swinging vine finally slammed against Spider-Bat, sending him flying across the roof to beside Jason. Red snarled, I've got some more flashes, but we're gonna need another plan. I've got something in motion, Wayne said, but it could take time. I may have to resort to fighting fire with fire here. He pulled a small vial from his belt. I really never wanted to use this thing. He popped off the lid, but the second he did, Cassidy could feel the presence. Oh, did you bring a cousin of ours along? He whipped a tendril and snatched the vial before its contents could escape. Jason, having no idea what the vial was, leapt forward and grabbed it, being pulled towards Cassidy. A black mass from inside leapt out of the tube and began crawling up and across Jason's arm. By the time he reached Cassidy, he was completely overwhelmed by his own Symbiote, and slashed a massive claw across his foe's face. Cassidy cried out angrily, stumbling backwards as Jason landed and looked at himself.
What is this? How did you have another of these things?
Jason said through a jagged, toothed mouth back to Spider-Bat. The first time I fought Cassidy, Bane Brock sacrificed himself to try and kill his and Cassidy's symbiotes. Cassidy's obviously didn't completely die, but neither did Brock's. I saved a small bit in a vial just in case I ever needed it. But be careful, Red, that thing can really make you lose control. He looked all over his altered form and felt the immense strength he'd just gained. He then looked around at the swarm of villains. I think I could stand to lose a bit of control right now. He thrust out his clawed arm. His wrist guns had gotten bigger, and he fired cannon-like blasts from them, first riddling Clayface with holes. The villain practically became Swiss cheese before Ice Goblin shot down towards Jason. But Jason whipped around and shot a tendril from his arm, ripping the rider off and pulling the glider right to him. Goblin crashed to the roof, tied up in a detached tendril, and Jason grabbed the glider and slammed the foot pedal, which activated the ice beam. It blasted right at Clayface, freezing him solid. Jason pointed it next at Rhino, but it wasn't as effective on him. The muscle-bound brute smashed through the ice and kept running at Jason. Jason sidestepped and grabbed Rhino by the horn. With incredible strength, he swung his foe around and hurled him up into the air. He then fired a tendril up, grabbed the brute, and slammed him back onto the roof, sending him crashing through multiple floors. But before Jason could turn to his next target, 4 vine arms fired forth and slammed him, sending him flying backwards, where Cassidy stuck out an arm and clotheslined him. Jason spiraled through the air and slammed to the roof. Impressive little tricks, kiddo. Maybe you'd be even more fun to fight than Batsy. Which means I guess I don't really need him around anymore, do I? A cascade of tendrils shot at Wayne. He dodged a few, but some finally grabbed him and pulled him towards Cassidy, who held up a claw to Wayne's throat. It's been a fun ride, Batsy, but I think this is your stop. I'd say I've still got a few more to go. Ready, Cat? Cassidy and Pamela's gaze both shot across the roof to Riddlecat, who is now holding Pamela's jamming device. You made it sound like this would be a lot easier than it was, Spider, but yeah, I'm ready. She dropped the device and stomped on it, then plugged her ears. Wayne flung his arm around to his belt again. This time, an eruption of sound blasted out, shattering all the windows around them. Jason and Cassidy's symbiotes shrieked and shriveled away. Wayne quickly webbed up Cassidy, tapped his belt again to stop it, then turned back to Pamela. 5 down, 1 to go. Cat, you traitorous fool, you could have finally ended him for good, Pamela yelled. Am I really a traitor if I was never really on your side in the first place? Like I said, Doc, I figured after I heard about the prison break that you'd be putting together a team, so I asked Cat to join up and keep tabs on your plans. She didn't tell me everything, or really anything, but I knew I could count on her to step in and help when I really needed her. Before he could finish his rant, a gunshot fired across the roof. Wayne whipped around to see Jason standing over the now limp, lifeless body of Arthur Cassidy. Red, we don't kill people, how? You don't kill people, and that's why stuff like this keeps happening. Now, he'll never hurt anyone again. Wayne whipped back around to see Pamela fleeing across buildings. He stepped towards her to chase her, but then turned back to see Jason also running from the scene. Cat just shrugged and leapt from the building, swinging herself away. Sirens wailed in the distance as Wayne just stood over the webbed-up corpse before him. Even in death, a horrific grin was sprawled across his face. After all the chaos of the night, for better or worse, Arthur Cassidy had laughed his final laugh. I'm so glad I ended up doing this video and this drawing because it's really nice to see how much I've improved in the last year. Like, I feel like I had improved a lot in the last year, but just seeing a clear example of that is really nice. Last year when I did Spider-Bat Let There Be Carnage, I'm assuming I talked about the fact that I wanted to improve on how I did buildings and backgrounds, and I definitely feel like I've done that. The buildings in the new piece are still a little bit bland and generic-y, but they add a nice texture to the piece. They're a bit nicer than what I was doing before. They're less faded out. They feel more present, and I feel like there's a bit more depth moving between them and the characters and the farther ones in the background. Backgrounds in general are something that I feel like I have gotten a lot better at in the last year, or mostly in the last 4 months or so. I also don't hold back with the vibrancy of the pieces anymore. Like, I've always enjoyed vibrant poppy colors, but I feel like on this newest one I just didn't hold back at all. I just went full-blown super saturated colors, and I really like that look. I also don't use white outlines around the characters anymore to make them stand out, because I feel like in my shading and lighting process I just do a good enough job of making them stand out from the background without adding the white outline anymore. And finally, this is a more recent development, but I don't really use that cloudy, painterly sort of brush for smoke and clouds and stuff in the background anymore. Now I kind of do that cel-shaded, and I do splashes of water and things like that in the same way. I just think doing the cel-shaded sort of look works a lot better for my art style, and it all blends together in a better way. So overall, I am insanely happy with this piece. It might be my favorite thing I've drawn on the channel now. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the story and artwork in this video. I hope you all feel that if you've been following the channel for the last couple years that you've been improving as well. I really like encouraging people to keep working and improving on what they're doing. I've said it many times before, I never thought I was going to be a good enough artist to a point where I was going to make a living off just my drawings. And I mean, it's not just my drawings on this channel, it's also the stories and videos. But the fact that so many people love coming to see the stuff that I'm drawing, it really means a lot, and anyone can get to this point with enough hard work. If you put in the work, you're gonna be doing stuff way better than this someday, I promise. But anyway, everybody, besides that, that's all for today. I'm Christian Pearson, this has been PopCross Studios, home of the nerdiest art videos on YouTube. The next video on the channel is going to be Friday, where I take subscribers' superheroes and villains and turn them into dragons. I'm super excited for that, I think it's gonna be a great community redraw, and hopefully I'll see you all there. Alright, everybody, goodbye.